All right, so we are live streaming now. This is the round 2, room 4 for the 2022 high school mock trial. We're live streaming now at this point. We've got Team Buffalo Grass and Switchgrass here. We've gone through and staged a video. It's taking a lot of time making sure we have everybody identified properly, names. May not show on your screen, but as the scores have gone through and written down everyone's names, we'll make sure there's no questions at all. Mr. Senaceros, are you able to turn your video screen yet?
Unfortunately, I'm still having difficulties with finding the camera option on here. It only shows mute and on the camera icons.
Ask him if he can switch out.
Is there a possibility that I could switch out?
Switch out with, I'm fine. If you're in another room with another person, we had this before as well. More than one person can use the computer. We just want to be able to identify who those people are.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, so if you want to sign out on that one, Mr. Senaceros, and then sign in and get on somebody else's video, that's fine with me. All right, well, we're waiting for that. Mr. Stein and Mr. Vittiguri, and then Ms. Morris, if you want to put your cameras on so all the students are able to see you at least. Make sure they're able to take a look at us. Thank you so much for doing that for us. I want students to be able to look at us and make sure there's no conflicts with them as well. And once I've confirmed that Mr. Senaceros is on another video feed, then we can go ahead and put yours back to black here in just a moment. Mr. Senaceros, are you on anybody else's computer?
Oh, hi. I'm just gonna be using Lena's computer because her screen has the option for camera. We're just gonna switch accounts real quick. So
okay, I just want to make sure if you want to switch it, that's fine, but I really do need to make sure that the timekeepers' times are being flashed as we go through the process. So the timekeepers absolutely need to have the video screen available.
Okay, so me and Lena are just gonna share the same computer, if you don't mind, sir.
Okay, we'll do the best that we can. So if you want to go ahead and put your screen on, so we can your video on, so we can go ahead and take a look at your face there, Mr. Senaceros. All right, now, if you just take your mask off for a second so I can make sure that they can see your faces if they have to identify you. You can put it right back on once we get that done. Thank you, I appreciate it. That's perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, all right, to the timekeepers then, as we went through the faces of the children, do any of you have any conflicts with any of the participants? Seeing all head shaking no, so I'm taking that as all negative. Fantastic. So then to all the team members, to Team Buffalo, you've seen our faces. And is there any conflicts for any of the teams, for any of the scorers, or for myself to participate in this round?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. Switchgrass saying no. For Buffalo?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. No from Buffalo. All right, so we can go ahead and let the scorers go ahead and go to a blank screen then. So we've got a few rules that we're gonna have to go through before we start the process here today. So I need to make sure that we've got the scores. We're gonna be doing best witness and also best attorney. We do that here locally as prize for the kids. So we will be scoring for that today. We've gone through the introductions of parties and also any type of bias between the parties. I didn't recognize any of the children here today either. All right. So then for Team Buffalo, are you ready to proceed to trial?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. For Team Switchgrass, are you ready to proceed to trial?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. I need to make sure that there are no coaches or any other family members or anybody else in the same rooms with the participants. So I want to make sure to direct anybody. If you're a parent, you're a coach, you should be watching this on YouTube. You shouldn't be in the same room with the children. All right, we've gone through and created our own list for everyone. I should have asked Mr. Stein, Mr. Vildegar, and Ms. Morris, were you able to get everybody's names properly? Do you need any corrections or ask any follow-up questions for that?
Your Honor, do you know whether the teams are going to have a roster? It will, is that?
No, they're not going to have a roster emailed to us, so that we were going through introducing. I was hoping we'd get all the names written down. So if we need to go through that again, we can certainly do that before we begin. I want to make sure each child gets the proper score to the right person. Do we need to go through that again for you?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Vidgar, that's fine with me. So we'll make sure we get that done. I'm getting that from Ms. Morris, Mr. Stein as well. Weird times. Normally kids would walk up with their sheets and I'd know exactly who's what, where, and the team names and everything else. So it makes it more difficult. So for Buffalo, it looks like I've got Melody Gordon for an attorney. And let me know, speak up if you
Yes,
need
that's
anybody
me.
for correct spelling or not. I'm sorry, Ms. Melody, Ms. Gordon?
Yeah, that's me.
Fantastic. So I'm gonna just go through the names, and if they ask for any corrections or need additional spelling, because I'm sure I spelled it incorrectly on my sheets here, we'll go ahead and have everybody speak up. Next, we've got then Mauricio Cenaceros, who's going to be borrowing the other video. That's the other attorney. I've got Rimson Matthias.
Yeah.
There's Rimson, Mr. Matthias there. For Dakota, playing that, then it's Ainsley Lemke.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you so much. I'm trying to go slow enough to make sure everyone's able to write this down quickly. For playing Carson Durst, I've got Chloe, is it Chloe Gordon?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Got Ms. Gordon there. Then for Dr. Casey Rogers, I've got Zared Rodriguez.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you so much. And then for timekeeping, we've got Lena Kutzi.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Kutzi. So that covers Buffalo Crest. Mr. Stein, Mr. Vidgar, Ms. Morris, do you need me to go through that again, or were you able to get those down?
I did capture those this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all. Ms. Morris, you're good with that? She's shaking her head, yes. Mr. Stein,
All good here.
thumbs up. I saw it just the last second. I apologize. All right. So then for Switchgrass, defendants team, we've got Bridget. And Bridget, how do I say your last name?
Keo.
Keogh. Keough is Ms. Keogh. Then we've got Ms. Miller Vivian. Ms. Miller Vivian, I'm sorry, your first name again? You're on mute for me. I'm sorry.
Elora. Elora.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Then we've got, looks like Lauren Shute. Is that right?
It's pronounced shut. Actually.
Shut. I'm sorry, Miss Shut.
No worries, Your Honor.
Put that phonetically there so I don't forget that. I apologize. So Miss Shut. All right, then we've got then Blake by Addison Ward.
Hi.
There's Ms. Ward. Thank you so much. You want to leave the screen on. People are moving back and forth, and leave the volume on. Then for Skylar, we've got Casper.
I have Jake and Casper.
Jake and Casper, thank you. And then for Dr. Williams, Kat Rieger.
Yes.
Ms. Rieger's there. Thank you. And then for time score, we've got Kyra.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. And Kyra, how do I spell your last name again?
Adair.
Thank you. Adair, right?
Adair, yes.
Adair, thank you. Okay. All right. I think that's got everybody. Mr. Vindegar, does that get you caught up for everybody? Fantastic.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Morris, thumbs up, and then waiting for John.
All good, Your Honor.
Fantastic. I think we got everybody together. Fantastic. Okay, great. So we've got everybody saying they're ready and prepared for trial. So let me go ahead and go through my list of things that I need to go through. So no rosters. We don't have on the record. 3, 4, and 5 all tell me to tell you that you can't be videotaped without permission, but here we are on video being broadcast to the world on YouTube. So those don't matter anymore. Remind teams that there are no recesses that will be allowed except for those granted for a health emergency. And I think when they mean health emergency, they really mean a health emergency. It has to be very rare typically to have that occur. All right, we've already went through part 7. That's asking each panelist or the scorers if they have any biases, and then also to the team members, either for myself or to the scorers. So we've completed number 8. Remind teams then and coaches that any disputes arising out of the competition must be reported in accordance with the competition rules. That's the in-bar and then also the out-of-bar disputes. The paperwork is online. We don't have any jury boxes, so I don't need 10. I'll remind teams their compliance with time requirements will be considered in scoring individual performances. So if someone yells stop and it continues, that could be a reduction in points. All right, I don't need each side to introduce team members. We've gone through that. So I'm going to go to the swearing in of all participation. So for the attorneys, I'm going to have you all get onto a screen, either it's joining together or individual screens, and I'm going to swear you in. All right, we've got all switchgrass. 1, 2, we'll need 3rd for buffalo grass. Mr. Santaceros, there we go. All right, so team members, have you raise your right hands. Team members, do you promise that the presentation you're about to give will faithfully, completely perform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition?
I do.
All right, all sworn in. Then the witnesses. If we can have witnesses. There we got all the switchgrass. We've got all of buffalo grass. Fantastic. Raise your right hands then and swear with me. Do you promise that the testimony you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform with your witness statements, that you will not add material facts or opinions that are not contained in the case problem, and that you will follow the rules and procedures of the mock trial competition?
I do.
I do.
All right. Thank you so much. To the scoring panelists then, I'll swear you in as well. If you'll raise your right hand. Do you promise to adjudicate the mock trial competition as fairly and objectively as possible in accordance with the facts, procedures, and the rules of the mock trial competition?
I do.
Yes, Your Honor.
All have been sworn in. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time. Normally, I'd swear in gallery members, teachers, and coaches, but we don't need to go through that. So we are prepared to go to our trial now. It'll be opening statements, 5 minutes each. Then we've got the plaintiff's case, the defense case, direct examination, 25 minutes, cross-examinations, total of 20. We'll get to the closing arguments, 5 minutes each. Any rebuttal argument has to be properly reserved or will not be given. So we'll go ahead and go through that process here in just one moment. Is there anything for buffalo grass before we proceed?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anything then for switchgrass before we proceed?
No, Your Honor.
Fantastic. Then I think we are ready for opening arguments. My timekeeper is ready to go.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, great. So what we'll have then is I'll keep my video on through the entire trial. If you are a participating attorney, I would like to have your screen on. If you're the witness as well, have your screen on as well so we can see that. But other than that, we'll try to keep the bandwidth as minimum as possible and make sure we're able to hear each other as we go through. I will do this. If I can't hear you, if you don't see that, I'll go and stop the time and have people either adjust videos or microphones or whatever else we need to do to participate. All right, opening statements then for buffalo grass.
Okay, so good afternoon, members of the jury, your honor and opposing counsel. Today we are here to get justice for Skylar Weirs. They are a victim of corporate greed, ego, and poorly conducted research. Today the burden is the plaintiff. We must prove that Drufa was manufactured and used by Less Fertilizer, that it was reasonable for the plaintiff to use a product, and that Blake Doncourt, CEO of Less Fertilizer, was negligent in the production and distribution of their product, and last, that the plaintiff to use the product. In order to do this, we will call 3 witnesses. First will be Carson Durst, who is a smart person with a promising future in the fertilizer industry. They worked their way up from an intern to a value employed at Lush, and was fired because they knew too much, and Lush thought that they were safe due to a non-disclosure clause. Alongside them is Casey Rogers, a researcher who has a brilliant mind and has had years of research looking at the impact that chemicals have on the human body. More specifically, the impact Drufo has on the human body. They have 2 publications, research based on specific communities impacted by Drufo, rather than vague statistical generalizations. They also looked at Dakota's medical records and were the only ones to do so. Finally, we have Dakota, who is a person in her 20s and was a promising pianist with a scholarship to Juilliard. They have been victimized by Lush's failure to properly research and label their product. The other side will bring Blake Doncourt, who only looks out for themselves and is only concerned with collecting awards and accolades and profit. Next to them is Skylar Weirs, an investigative reporter who has their career on the line. And if they don't bring up a story soon, they may be swallowed by death. Skylar will do this even at the expense of their own twin sister. Finally, there is Devin Williams, who has all the experience one can want in toxicology and forensic toxicology, but does not use any of it at Lush Fertilizer. Instead, Williams looks only at the environmental impacts of Lush Fertilizer. We are confident that we will be able to show that Lush Fertilizer is negligent and that damages should only be awarded to Skylar Weirs.
There we go. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Sanaceros. We'll go to opening statement then for Switchgrass. I will ask though, for both timekeepers, if you can keep your videos on so I can see you flash your times. As I go through the process, I'm in my mind calculating how close you are in case there's any objection. I know that's the last thing in the world that you want, but that's what I'm going to have happen. So thank you very much, ladies. I appreciate that. Who's opening statement then for Switchgrass?
Oh, sorry. Your Honor, I will be presenting the opening statement.
Great, thank you. And as I'm trying to remember everyone's faces, you are again?
I am Lauren Shutt.
Thank you, Ms. Shutt. All right, you may proceed.
Of course. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Lush Fertilizer was not aware that its products created a risk of harm to the people who were expected to use the product. Without this awareness, Lush Fertilizer cannot be held legally responsible for the plaintiff's illness. Today, you will see and hear evidence from both sides, but the plaintiff has the burden of proof and must prove my client's legal responsibility by a preponderance of evidence. A preponderance of evidence means that based on all evidence, something is more likely true than not. This standard applies to each and every legal element required under law. After all the evidence is presented, the judge will instruct you on the law applicable to this case. The judge will tell you that negligence requires first a duty to act, then a failure to act, and lastly, it requires the plaintiff's illness has been caused by the failure to act. We believe you will find that the first of these, the duty to act, is missing. No knowledge, no duty. Today, you will hear testimony suggesting Lush Fertilizer knew its product was harmful during its research and development. Plaintiff's witness, Carson Durst, claims to have uncovered a single laboratory study during the development of the product. Number one, the company CEO, Blake Doncourt, will deny the awareness of the study. Number two, even if you believe that my client was aware of this lone study, we will ask you to give little weight to a study involving laboratory animals. Cancer risks to laboratory animals do not prove unreasonable risk of cancer to humans. No knowledge of risk to humans, no duty to protect humans. You will hear testimony from the plaintiff's witness, Casey Rogers, suggesting a statistical correlation between the use of Lush Fertilizer's product and an increased incidence of cancer. The defense will present a recognized expert in forensic my apologies, forensic toxicology, Dr. Devin Williams, to refute this statistical correlation and call into doubt the reliability of Dr. Rogers' testimony. These statistics were developed many years after the Lush Fertilizers product was brought to the market. These statistics were not known during the development and marketing of this product, nor at any time prior to this case. No knowledge, no duty. As I mentioned a moment ago, the plaintiff must prove her illness was caused by my client's failure to uphold a duty imposed under the law. You will at best hear circumstantial evidence of the link between the product and this illness. Not one witness today will state with authority that Lush Fertilizers product was the cause or even a cause of the plaintiff's illness. The legal requirements for knowledge and duty apply equally to the plaintiff in this case. The law provides that the plaintiff has a duty to protect herself from known danger. Today, you will hear that the plaintiff was made aware and will need to wear protective clothing while using fertilizer products. The plaintiff will admit today that these simple precautions were not taken. The law states that this failure to protect against a known duty relieves my client of liability. Knowledge creates a duty to act. Lush Fertilizer is sympathetic to the plaintiff's situation, but the judge will instruct you that sympathy cannot influence your decision today. You will also be instructed to weigh the witness testimony based on your means of knowledge, witness motives, and witness bias. We ask you that you disregard speculation and witness testimony tainted with bias. At the conclusion of this evidence, my co-counsel will stand before you and review the evidence. She will remind you that the burden of proof falls on the plaintiff, and that crucial element to liability in this case is missing. Lush Fertilizer was not aware of an unreasonable risk of harm to its users in its product. No knowledge, no duty, no liability. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Schutt. All right. We are then ready for first witness for Buffalo. Mr. Sanaceros, are you going to be examining then Dr. Rogers? You're on mute right now, sir. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. And who's going to be defense attorney then for the cross-examination?
Okay.
I will be the defense attorney.
All right, and I'm sorry. Can you
My name is Laura Miller Vivian.
Thank you, Ms. Miller Vivian. I appreciate that. All right. Witness is already sworn in. You may go ahead and proceed then, Mr. Sanaceros.
Please state your first name for the court and spell the last.
Dr. Casey Rogers, Rogers.
What is your current profession?
I'm currently employed at the University of California at Berkeley in the Horticulture and Entomology Department.
Do you have a college education?
Yes, I have my PhD in Agriculture and Entomology, also from the University of California at Berkeley. I also have my Bachelor's of Science in Agriculture and Chemistry from CSU.
Are you published?
Yes, I have published numerous scholarly articles on the negative and harmful effects of prolonged exposure to chemicals, including DRUFO.
Is there any research that pertains to DRUFO?
Yes, 4 out of the 6 articles that I have published have to do with DRUFO, and those range from 2013 to 2017.
Any other research projects of interest to this case?
Yes, my research interest lies in pesticide chemistry and toxicology and the mode of action against of organic toxicants.
Are there any of these interests impacting current projects?
Yes, my current project focuses on pesticide mode of action and metabolism. I'm very passionate about it because it will help minimize the hazards of exposure for humans, domestic animals, and other non-target species.
Does any of your research work impact the pesticide industry?
Yes, I worked as a research analogist for large multinational chemical companies.
At this time, I would like the court to recognize Dr. Casey Rogers as an expert in pesticide chemistry and toxicology.
All right, any objection?
No, Your Honor.
All right, so noted. Thank you very much.
Okay, so what is DRUFO?
DRUFO was a chemical developed in 2003 by the scientists at Lush Fertilizer, and DRUFO is a patented ingredient that Lush uses in all of its products as a bonding agent. And DRUFO is specifically used in fertilizer to keep fertilizer preserved and intact.
So why did you conduct a study on DRUFO?
I had a concern about the safety. I had been hearing reports on the potentially negative effects of the substance, and I wanted to study the chemical to determine any side effects or negative effects.
Okay, so on to the next question. What is non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is a specific type of cancer that affects white blood cells, and it affects the immune system, and those with the lymphoma can become immune compromised and more susceptible to disease.
So when you researched, what was your conclusion on the safety of Lush fertilizer?
Well, I found that it was needed that people use coverings, and it was usually caused by exposure to an environmental condition, and the toxins in the pesticide could be absorbed through the skin or inhaled through the respiratory system.
Have you looked into the harmful effects of prolonged exposure to chemicals and their impact on the body?
Yes, I conducted a study.
Have you analyzed Lush fertilizer projects?
Yes, I have personally analyzed the chemical makeup of each product using a mass spectrometer.
Why were you concerned about DRUFO and Lush fertilizers?
I was concerned because it was already known that DRUFO is a carcinogen in rats.
Did you design a study to look at the impact of DRUFO on humans?
Yes.
What are the parameters of that study?
I studied a control group of people who had never been exposed to DRUFO, a group of people who used products containing DRUFO on occasion, and a group who were exposed to DRUFO on a regular.
What were your findings?
The study found an increase in serious health conditions and diagnosis in those individuals who exposed to DRUFO as compared to the control group. Specifically, the study found higher incidences of cancer, including non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
So based on your research, is there a strong correlation between DRUFO and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
Yes, the study found higher incidences of cancer, and as I said, it included non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
Is it likely that Dakota Weir's cancer is caused by exposure to DRUFO?
In my opinion, I do believe so.
Okay, so what do I say? Okay, so that's all for my direct.
Sorry, I forgot that I was muted there. I apologize. So thank you very much, Mr. Sanaceros. We've got Ms. Miller Vivian.
Yes, Your Honor.
There we go. All right, this is your witness.
This is the first time you have testified as an expert.
That is correct.
Your CV accurately describes your education and experience.
Can you please restate the question?
Your CV accurately describes your education and experience.
Yes.
Your PhD is in agriculture and entomology.
Yes.
Your BS is in agriculture and chemistry.
That is correct.
You do not have a degree in toxicology.
No, I do not.
You do not have a degree in medicine.
No, I do not.
You are not an oncologist.
I am not.
Will you please refer to Exhibit 9? Or sorry, not Exhibit 9, Exhibit 7. These titles of your publications fairly describe the subject matter of each publication.
Can you please restate the question?
Do these titles of your publications fairly describe the subject matter of each publication?
Yes.
You've only identified one article with the title referring to human exposure in DRUFO,
That is correct.
and that being the evidence of human exposure to DRUFO published in 2019.
That is correct.
Judging by the titles in Exhibit 7, several of your publications deal with how weeds react to DRUFO,
That is correct.
some being DRUFO-resistant weeds in 2013,
Correct.
and multiple resistance to DRUFO in 2019.
Also correct.
You have concluded that DRUFO is carcinogenic in rats. My apologies.
Correct.
Laboratory rats?
Please restate.
Was that in laboratory rats?
As for that, I am not sure.
Would you agree that laboratory rats and human beings are not the same thing?
Yes, I would agree to that.
You would agree that further study into the risks to humans would be necessary before relying entirely on the studies involving laboratory rats?
I do agree with that, which was why I did have an interest.
I will remind you now that your lawyer will have time to ask you more questions. If you would just please answer my questions with yes or no. Thank you. Your study of human health effects from exposure to DRUFO was completed after DRUFO was on the market.
That is correct.
Your study results would not have been known to Lush Fertilizer during the development of DRUFO.
No, it would not.
Your study concluded that there is a correlation between exposure and to DRUFO and cancer.
Yes.
That's a statistical correlation.
My study, I did examine exposure to DRUFO.
Would you please just answer my questions with yes or no? I will repeat the question. Was that a statistical correlation?
No.
You compared rates of illness within various groups in your study, correct?
Correct.
You did not perform the toxicology testing on individuals in your study, either before or after your study?
Correct.
Until this case was brought, you did not present your study to Lush.
That is also correct.
You did not control your human subjects' exposure to DRUFO or any other chemical agents during the study?
I had a control group in which there were no exposures, a different group that had exposure on occasion, and a group that had exposure constantly. Or
I will remind you one more time. Will you please just answer my questions with yes or no? Thank you. My apologies. You simply chose human subjects from 3 distinct groups, correct?
correct.
You then monitored their health.
Can you restate the question?
You then monitored their health.
Not directly.
You were here. My apologies. You're aware. You reviewed options to prevent exposure to chemicals like DRUFO, correct?
May you please restate the question?
You reviewed options to prevent exposure to chemicals like DRUFO.
That is correct.
You came up with some recommendations to reduce exposure and that related to risks of harm, correct?
That is correct. However, in that study,
Please just answer my question with yes or no.
I found that study inconclusive.
Thank you. You reviewed options. My apologies. You recommend that anyone working with DRUFO should wear long sleeves and long pants
That is correct.
to avoid contact with skin contact with skin to the chemical.
That is correct.
You also recommend that the users who may be exposed to aerosolized Drufo wear a protective mask
Correct.
to avoid inhaling it.
Correct.
You would agree that it would be against your recommendations to ignore a product warning that urged users to wear clothing and that covers the skin?
Correct.
You would agree that it would be against your recommendation for a user to use aerosolized Drufo to ignore a product warning that urged them to use a protective mask.
Correct.
When we first started talking today, I asked if you had ever testified as an expert witness before, correct?
Correct.
If this case goes the way you think it should, would this open the door for you to serve as an expert witness in other class action cases?
Correct.
That will put you at the forefront of the battle.
Correct.
Your services as an expert witness would be in demand in those cases?
Correct.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Mr. Seniceros, any follow-up questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then we are done with Dr. Rogers. Thank you very much. Next witness then for Buffalo Grass.
I would like to call Carson Durst to the stand.
All right, thank you, Ms. Gordon. We'll go ahead and call then Mr. Durst, already under oath. You may start asking your questions.
Thank you. So, Carson, do you have a college degree?
Yes, I do. I have a bachelor's in chemical engineering.
Where have you earned most of your experience in chemical knowledge?
While working in Lush Fertilizers.
What did you do while employed at Lush Fertilizers?
I worked on a patented bonding agent called Drufo.
What were some of your day-to-day responsibilities?
Well, most of the time I would write in books about the research that we've gathered through all of the day, and I would take a look through all of our findings.
Are you currently employed?
Yes, at Terra's Greenery.
Was this your first job as a developer for fertilizers?
No, I worked at Lush Fertilizers.
How did you gain this employment?
Well, when Lush was hiring interns for the summer of 2003, I put in my application and I was hired for the research and developmental team.
How long were you employed at Lush Fertilizers?
Around 3 years, July 2003 to December 2006.
What was your first job function at Lush Fertilizers?
I originally was an intern and I was given lots of responsibilities.
How so?
Well, as I said before, I was assigned with finding how safe Drufo was, and it is very important to Lush.
Did you ever submit work for evaluation to higher management?
Yes, on June 10th, 2003, I documented a study of Drufo in my lab notebook.
What was in that document?
It was a study from England of a chemical compound in Drufo that found an increased instances of kerogenes in rats.
Were you ever involved in higher level meetings?
Yes, one in particular was on December of 2003.
What was discussed during those conferences?
We talked about our analysis of the component we researched.
During your time at Lush, what did you witness?
In a multitude of times, the company used disinformation to their advantage.
Can you explain some of those instances?
Well, at the meeting that I talked about before, Alex Monroe, who was an upper-class religion manager, said to keep it in the walls, even though scientists expressed a concern.
Concern? About what?
That Drufo could be linked to non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
Did they express that later in any report?
Nope. A couple of months later, when the copy of the study came to me, it said we needed further research to know if the chemical compound caused long-term effects as it suggested to bake Drufo.
Why would you need to bake it?
Well, when you bake fertilizers, it would eliminate the possibility that it would be carcinogenic, but the company framed this in a way that made Lush look like they would be going far beyond necessary.
Is that a very common thing for Lush to do?
Yes. They're always deliberately fitting data into the narrative desired by upper management.
Let's look back at your time at Lush. How did you rise to ranks so fast?
Well, I was performing at a higher level. And then the other engineers, as I stated before, I was working with upper management and had a hand in research as an intern.
Have people ever questioned your role at the company?
Of course, there are always rumors that from people who just didn't like me. Plus, Blake wouldn't hire me without being qualified.
Why not?
Blake is a businessman, so by no means would he jeopardize his company.
Did you have any doubts about Blake?
Yeah, he hasn't been like himself as of lately because of his divorce, so this could be...
Objection.
How do you suppose?
There's an objection. What is the objection?
Or doing guy.
To relevance.
Went to the
So-
office at one point.
So I need there to be a wait. There's been an objection.
Oh,
So
We
so
can't-
the objection, I'm sorry again.
It's an objection to relevance.
All right. And your screen is blanked out. Who is speaking right now for Switchgrass?
Sorry, Your Honor, it's Berticchio.
Thank you, Ms. Keough. So I want to make sure we have scoring properly for everyone. All right, there's been an objection to relevance. Ms. Gordon?
Which question was that for?
What is, like,
I think it was to the
non-course
divorce was the objection contemporaneously at that time.
Oh,
We couldn't hear you.
yeah. Since there's an echo, we have to mute.
Okay, so you see me start waving, I guess. If you're on mute, then you know I'm wanting you to stop. So there is an objection to the question relating to the divorce as not being relevant. Any response, Ms. Gordon?
I think it is relevant because this mental state of Blake could have been hindered and we wouldn't want that.
Mental state to what?
Yeah.
All right. So this time I'm going to sustain the objection to that question unless it's going to be relevant to something else. You can ask some more foundational questions related to that if you want to go back to that question, but I'll sustain it at this moment. Thank you very much. Ms. Gordon, you may continue.
Okay, thank you. So I heard you went to his office.
Yes, I wanted to speak with him about how I've been unfairly treated for my coworkers because you know them, they're just jealous.
And how did he react to that?
Well, not very well.
I no further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you very much. Ms. Keough.
Yes. Ms. Durst, you worked for Lush Fertilizer from June 2003 to December 2006, correct?
Yes.
And during that time, you discovered one study that linked Drufo to cancer in laboratory rats.
Yes.
Were you able to find any studies that examined whether Drufo had any adverse effects on humans?
No.
And you documented that one study involving laboratory rats in your lab book in June 2003.
Yes.
And you cannot be certain that anyone higher up in your company reviewed your lab book.
Can you repeat the question?
Are you certain that there is someone higher up in the company that reviewed your lab book?
No.
So you can only speculate.
Yes.
The final report prepared by your team did not reach any conclusions as to whether Drufo was carcinogenic in humans.
Yes.
And non-Hodgkin lymphoma was not specifically addressed anywhere in the report.
No.
In fact, the final report stated that the statistical distribution was below legal requirements,
Yes.
and this was within 3 standard deviations from federal regulations.
Yes.
Do you believe that this report was misleading?
Yes.
You did not have any access to the data analyzed by the research and development team.
No.
So you don't know of the specific data that they analyzed.
Yes.
You're convinced that without a doubt, Lush Fertilizer knew the risk of Drufo in its unbaked form could cause non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
100%.
And this conviction is based on the opinions of a single scientist.
Yes.
You characterize that single scientist's opinions to be perhaps there was a link between Drufo and non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
Yes.
So to clarify, you're suggesting Lush Fertilizer deliberately distributed a product that causes cancer,
Yes.
despite a report that did not identify a causal link between Drufo and cancer in humans.
Yes.
You believe Lush Fertilizer acted on a narrative desired by upper management?
Yes.
Were you in upper management at Lush Fertilizer?
No.
You left Lush Fertilizer in 2006.
Yes.
You characterized one of your performance reviews as abysmal.
Can you please restate a question?
Did you characterize one of your performance reviews as abysmal?
Yes.
You were confronted with mounting complaints by your coworkers as to your job performance.
Yes.
You were then placed on probation.
Yes.
After a visit to Ms. Doncourt's office, you were disheartened.
Yes.
Would you say you were angry?
Of course.
Seething?
No.
No? Because according to your witness statement, you were.
Yes.
Okay. Did Ms. Doncourt intervene in your situation with Jerry Langley?
Can you please re-ask the question?
You asked Ms. Doncourt to intervene on your situation with Jerry Langley. Did she?
No.
Did you feel betrayed by Ms. Doncourt?
Yes.
You then applied to work for Terrace Greenery?
Yes.
You applied knowing that Terrace Greenery was a direct competitor of Lush Fertilizer.
Yes.
Did you think working for Terrace Greenery would get Ms. Doncourt's goat?
Can you ask the question?
Re-ask the question?
Yes.
Did you think that working for a direct competitor of Lush Fertilizer would get Ms. Doncourt's goat?
Objection, Your Honor, leading the witness.
All right. It's cross-examination, so these are all leading questions. So I'll overrule the objection. You may continue.
Yes.
Was this revenge?
No. Yes.
Are you sure?
It was revenge.
Because again, according to your witness statement, you've said otherwise.
It was revenge.
You then signed a written agreement that prohibited you from let me start over. You signed a written agreement that prohibited you from working for Lush Fertilizer's competitors.
Yes.
Would you please look at Exhibit 5 in front of you? Are you looking at the document?
Yes.
Is your signature the signature underneath Ms. Doncourt's?
Yes, it is.
And you signed this on June 1st, 2003?
That's correct.
Your Honor, at this time, I would like to admit Exhibit 5 into evidence.
Any objection to Exhibit 5?
No, Your Honor.
All right, so accepted.
Ms. Durst, will you please read number 2, the non-disclosure covenant on Exhibit 5?
Non-disclosure covenant. The employee will not at any time or in any manner, either directly or indirectly, divulge, disclose, reveal, or communicate any trade secrets belonging to Lush or any third party, including but not limited to a competitor of Lush.
So in working for Terrace Greenery, you violated this agreement.
Yes.
And you are now still employed by Terrace Greenery?
I am.
And you are working on a product that directly competes with an equivalent product developed by Lush Fertilizer.
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
All right. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right. We are done then with witness Carson. All right, next witness then for Buffalo.
Your Honor, I would like to call Dakota Weirs to the stand.
We'll call Dakota Weirs to the stand. All right, Ms. Weirs is here, already been sworn in. Mr. Matthias, this is your witness.
Please state your name and spell the last for the court.
Dakota Weirs, W-E-I-R-S.
Can you briefly state why you are here today?
I believe Lush Fertilizer is responsible for my illness.
What is your illness?
Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's a type of cancer.
How has cancer impacted your health?
I used to be very active in the community, and now I can barely help around the house. I sit on the couch most of my time.
Are you in pain?
Yes, I have swollen lymph nodes, chest pains, chills, and severe abdomen swelling.
How has cancer impacted your education?
I had to turn down my full ride scholarship to Juilliard. It just hurt too bad to sit on the piano seat.
Why do you believe Lush Fertilizer is responsible for your cancer?
I used it at my job, Havens Landscaping,
How long did you work in the landscaping industry?
since I was 14.
What were some of your responsibilities?
Because I started my job there young, 14 years of age, I primarily worked jobs that did not require me to use heavy machinery. I often would spread seeds and fertilizers.
Did you use any Lush products while working at Haven Landscaping?
Yes, I did.
Do you know if there is anything different about Lush Fertilizer in comparison to other products?
Yes, it contains Trufo.
How do you know?
I saw an ingredient list.
Did you ever lay eyes on the ingredients?
Yes, I did.
Why is this a concern for you?
I believe Trufo caused my cancer.
You seem so sure. Why is that?
It all started when I was watching the news. They had a segment about Lush Fertilizer and Trufo.
What was this news story about?
It was about leaked documents that showed that the company lied about the safety of its products. They knew that Trufo
Objection.
Hodgkin lymphoma.
Hearsay within hearsay.
There's been an objection to hearsay. Mr. Matthias,
No response.
no response. Who made the objection?
I did, Your Honor. Lauren Shutt.
Thank you, Ms. Shutt. I apologize. Thank you. All right. So if there's not a response, then I will sustain the objection. You may continue, Mr. Matthias.
What did you feel after hearing this news?
Complete and total shock. I had used Lush Fertilizer at my job.
What did you do next?
I called my old boss.
Why did you call your boss?
I wanted him to be aware of the life-threatening dangers of Lush Fertilizer, but also wanted to make completely sure that Lush product I had used for sure contained Trufo.
What did your boss say?
He was able to confirm that the Lush product I used contained Trufo. It was right there on the label.
Was anything else discussed?
He also mentioned that there are no warnings on the product, just recommendations.
Did you ever lay your eyes on the ingredients?
Yes, I did.
Do you see any warnings included on the label?
No, I see recommendations, but no warnings. Even wearing a mask is just a warning.
Did this seem unusual to you?
Absolutely.
Did you call anybody else?
Yes, I called my dad. He's my rock.
Did he support you during this trying time?
Absolutely. In fact, he also did some research and found out that the product sold here in the United States is different than products sold elsewhere.
How is it different?
Well, I found a label for the French product and it did not contain Trufo.
Did you do any more research?
Yes, I found out that the French version is sold all over the world, including Haiti, Liberia, Congo, Canada, and Cote d'Ivoire. I just don't
Objection, hearsay.
this version.
There's an objection to hearsay. Mr. Matthias?
No response.
All right. No response. I'll go and sustain the objection. Next question.
Earlier you mentioned the impact this had on physical and emotional state. Has this impacted your financial situation?
Absolutely. The bills have been piling up.
Who has been paying majority of your bills?
My father, he was my hero, and I loved to the dismay of my twin Skylar.
What do you mean?
Skylar does not care about me. She only cares about how much money will be left when my parents die and whether or not their gambling debts will be paid off.
Did it have an impact on your mental health?
To know that my twin doesn't care about me? Yes, but the cruelest part is that I'm going to die young. I even feel like I lost my grandfather all over again. I can't play the piano, so it feels like I lost a special connection with him.
No more questions.
Objection, relevance.
All right, I'm going to find that's a non-contemporaneous objection to the question, so I'm going to overrule that. Mr. Matthias, you are done questioning then?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, we're all done then. Ms. Shutt, your witness?
Good evening, Ms. Wires. Let's take some time to talk about the length of time as a landscaper. You testified that you believed non-Hodgkin lymphoma is environmental.
Yes.
You worked as a landscaper technician for several years.
Yes, I did.
You are 20 years old today,
Yes.
and you started working as a landscaper at only 14 years old.
Yes, I did.
Over the several years working as a landscaper, your main job was to spread seed and fertilizer, correct?
Yes, since I was so young, I couldn't use the heavy machinery.
Let me remind you, a simple yes or no will suffice. Agree that the seed and fertilizer are chemicals?
Can you re-say that?
Would you agree that the seed and fertilizer you used are chemicals?
Yes.
Over those several years as a landscaper, when spreading seed and fertilizer, did you not wear any gloves?
That's correct, but it was only a recommendation on the label.
A yes or no is okay, thank you. Over those several years as a landscaper, when you used the seed and fertilizer, you did not cover your face?
Right, but again, it was only a recommendation.
Yes or no will suffice. You did not wear any eye protection?
That's right.
Over those several years as a landscaper, you used the seed and fertilizer, and you did not cover your arms or legs?
That's right, but nobody else.
You did not wear any long sleeves or long pants?
That's right, but again, it was just a recommendation.
But, Miss Weirs, isn't it true that you knew, even at the age of 14, that you were supposed to wear gloves when handling these chemicals?
Yes, but it was summer and it was really hot and nobody else did.
A simple yes or no will suffice. You knew that you were supposed to cover your face, correct?
I did.
Your boss always told you to cover your face when you were working with the chemicals, correct?
Correct.
You knew that you were supposed to wear long sleeves and long pants when working with these chemicals, correct? I'm sorry, I did not hear your response. Could you repeat that?
Yes, but it was summer and it was really hot outside and my coworkers did not wear that either.
You knew that you were supposed to wear gloves,
Correct.
but you chose not to.
Correct.
You chose not to cover your face because you enjoyed the wind hitting your bare face?
Yes, it felt really good because it was really hot outside.
A yes or no will suffice, Ms. Weirs. You chose not to because you enjoyed the wind hitting your eyelashes?
Right.
You chose not to wear long sleeves, pants, or gloves because it was summer and it was too hot, correct?
Correct, and no, my coworkers weren't either.
A simple yes or no will suffice. You purposely disregarded your boss's instructions when using chemicals over the past several years?
Yes, but the point is, Drufo Lush Fertilizer only had warnings.
Yes or no will suffice. Let me remind you again, okay? You purposely disregarded your boss's instructions while using the chemicals over this past several years?
Yes.
And your failure to follow these instructions was to all lawn fertilizers and chemicals, correct?
Correct.
Not just limited to Lush Fertilizer?
Correct.
Now let's talk about Lush fertilizer. Are you familiar with Exhibit 1, the Lush fertilizer label?
Yes, I am.
This label is just as you remembered it, correct?
Correct.
Let's read the user safety recommendations. Please read from Exhibit 1.
As with any spray fertilizer, utilize protective clothing that covers exposed skin. Use of a respirator or N95 mask is recommended. Follow manufacturer's instructions for cleaning or maintaining personal protective equipment.
You would agree that these user safety recommendations identify certain precautions customers should take while using the product?
Yes, but it's not a warning.
A yes or no will suffice, Ms. Weirs. As you just testified, you did not take these precautions when utilizing Lush?
That's correct, but if I knew it had caused
Yes
cancer,
or no will suffice. Thank you. You testified that the lawn fertilizers you worked with was Lush fertilizer, correct?
correct.
But you worked with several other fertilizers and lawn chemicals.
That's correct.
And that was over the span of several years?
Correct.
You haven't identified what other fertilizers and lawn chemicals those were, but you are the only one identifying Lush as the made you sick.
Correct.
No further questions at this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Matthias?
Could you repeat that?
Do you have any redirect then for your witness?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then we are done then with plaintiff as well. We are going to then defense switchgrass, first witness for switchgrass.
That will be me, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. We've got Ms. Miller Vivian, and then we've got witness, and this is, which witness?
Dr. Devin Williams.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. We'll call Dr. Williams. Dr. Williams is already under oath. This is your witness.
Dr. Williams, please state your name, spelling the last for the record.
Devin Williams, Williams.
Dr. Williams, what is your current occupation?
I'm a research toxicologist at Lush Fertilizer Company. There, I lead research and development labs. I'm also the company's outgoing chairs of the ethics committees.
How long have you been employed at Lush Fertilizer and Company?
I've been employed since 2010.
Do you hold any degrees relating to your field of work?
Yes, undergrad through PhD was done at Colorado State University. My PhD is in pharmacology and toxicology specialization. I also did a specialized post-PhD program in pharmacotoxicology at the University of Utah.
Do you have any other professional experience in the field of toxicology?
School of Pharmacy and visiting associate professor of toxicology, assistant professor of toxicology, Larimer County Office of the Chief Medical Examiner.
Will you please refer to Exhibit 9? Your Honor, let the record reflect the opposing counsel has a copy of Exhibit 9. Your Honor, do you have a copy? Will you please describe Exhibit 9 for the court?
It's my curriculum vitae.
Did you prepare this document?
Yes.
Is it a true and accurate representation of your history and experience in the field of toxicology?
Yes.
Your Honor, I offer Exhibit 9 into evidence.
Any objection to Exhibit 9?
No objection.
All right, thank you, Mr. Matthias.
Your Honor, the defense offers Dr. Williams as an expert in the field of forensic toxicology.
There we go. Finally, I'm muted. Mr. Matthias, any objection to that?
No objection.
All right, we'll find that Dr. Williams is an expert. Thank you.
Dr. Williams, a moment ago, you said you were a research toxicologist who led toxicology research and development labs at Lush Fertilizer and Company. Can you explain what this involves?
Yes. I understand how to evaluate and research and evaluate test results to determine
the excuse me, sorry, the to determine if the chemical, if the chemical is toxic and through biomolecular and biochemical markers.
During the development of Drufo, did you analyze data?
Yes, I did.
What kinds of data?
Tests and experiments.
Did you reach any conclusions based on the data?
Yes, the final report issued by Research and Development Labs concluded that Drufo in its unbaked form did not pose a statistically significant increase in cancer in humans and through regular use of the chemical.
How does Drufo fit into the company's product line?
Drufo is a chemical compound that binds the fertilizer into any plants or grass upon which it is sprayed. Because of this, less needs to be sprayed and less washes away into the soil, interrupting the eutrophication process.
Do you believe that Drufo plays a role in the effectiveness of Lush Fertilizer's product?
Yes.
How so?
Drufo is a revolutionary product that is better for the planet and better for the people, like I said earlier, because of the interrupting of the eutrophication process compared to regular fertilizers.
You were here earlier when Dr. Casey Rogers testified.
Yes.
Are you familiar with Dr. Rogers' claim that Drufo causes cancer?
Yes, I'm familiar with the claim.
At the time that Drufo was under development, was Lush Fertilizer Company aware of that study?
No, Dr. Rogers only recently claims to have completed her study.
To your knowledge, has Dr. Rogers' study been peer-reviewed?
No.
In the scientific community, what role does peer review in validating results play?
Peer review tests the assumptions, method, conclusions, and study reliability.
To your knowledge, has Dr. Rogers' study been replicated?
No.
In the scientific community, what role does study replication have in validating study results?
Replication assures that the study results aren't a fluke.
Do you have an opinion on the reliability of Dr. Rogers' study?
It's not reliable, at least to reaching conclusions about the cause of cancer in its study participants.
Are you aware of any other significant scientifically valid study that more likely than not links the cause of Drufo to an increased incidence of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or any other cancers?
Use of Drufo has not been correlated with a statistically significant increase in the incidence of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or any other cancer.
In your opinion, is simple reliance on statistics a valid scientific method to research conclusions about the causes of diseases?
No.
Can you explain why?
Yes, we can look at the incidence risk of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and groups of people who use fertilizers with Drufo and compare that to groups of people who use fertilizers without Drufo. However, we have to account for the random element. Specifically, some groups have higher rates than others. Let's say we have a jar with 100,000 red jelly beans and 100,000 blue jelly beans. If we randomly pick 10, most of the time we won't exactly get 5 reds and 5 blues. We may even get 10 reds or 10 blues. Let's use the example from earlier. If we pick 1,000, we usually won't get 500 jelly beans of each, but we would get closer to a 50-50 split. If we randomly pick 1,000 and get 600 red and 400 blue, there are statistical formulas that tell us how often that would occur and if there were actually 100,000 of each in that jar. If the likelihood is too remote, then we can be sure that there weren't 100,000 of each in each jar. All the data we looked at was consistent with users of fertilizers with Drufo don't have an elevated risk of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or any other cancers compared to other fertilizers.
Based on the scientific authority of what you heard here today, do you believe that, in your opinion, let me restate the question. Based on what you've heard have seen in the scientific authority and what you've heard here today, do you have an opinion based on the likelihood that Drufo caused the cancer from which Ms. Dakota Weirs suffers?
Yes, in my opinion, as a forensics toxicologist, the use of Drufo did not likely cause the plaintiff's cancer.
Is there anything you've heard here today that would change your opinion?
No.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Cross-examination?
In general, you would agree that toxicology is a branch of science that studies the adverse effects of chemical substances on living organisms?
Yes.
And would you agree that forensic toxicology in general terms is the analysis of biological samples for the presence of toxins?
Yes.
And according to your curriculum vitae, you are well versed in these topics?
Yes.
In fact, you are currently teaching 3 courses dealing with toxicology?
Yes.
Does that keep you busy?
Yes.
In addition to your teaching load, you also work at Lush Fertilizer?
Yes.
You lead the toxicology research and development labs, yes?
Yes.
When you were promoted to lead the labs, it was largely to oversee work on the environmental impacts?
Yes.
You looked extensively into the impacts excess nitrates have on the environment?
Yes.
Did you look into the toxicology of Drufo on human tissue?
No.
Did you look into the toxicology of Drufo on any animal tissue?
No.
Did you do any lab investigations on the toxicity of Drufo on biological tissue?
No.
In fact, according to your statement, there is no evidence that you researched the impact Drufo had on human biology. Is that correct?
Yes.
You base your conclusion on correlation of statistics. Is that correct?
Yes.
In other words, you compared human populations and statistics in order to draw the conclusion that Drufo does not cause non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. All right. Ms. Miller, Vivian, any other questions?
Yes, Your Honor. One moment, please. Dr. Williams, does your employment with Lush Fertilizer in any way affect the truth of your testimony?
No.
Do you have an opinion on whether Dr. Rogers has a bias in this case?
Yes, I believe that Dr. Rogers has a bias.
Why do you believe this?
I believe that Dr. Rogers has a bias because Dr. Rogers admits that if this case is decided in the plaintiff's favor, Dr. Rogers' services as a so-called expert witness will be in demand as other cases come to the courts. That's a real motive to stretch the conclusions in her study.
And my final question is, a moment ago, you were asked about how your employment with Lush biases your testimony, correct, today?
Yes.
Correct?
Correct.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Any recross?
No, Your Honor.
All right. We are done with Dr. Williams. Thank you. Next witness then for Switchgrass.
Hello, Your Honor.
Hello, thank you. Ms. Shute, who are you going to be calling? I'm sorry.
I call Skylar. No worries. I call Skylar Weirs to the stand.
All right, Skylar Weirs. All right, there we go. There is Skylar. You are currently under oath. This is your witness, Ms. Schutt.
Please state and spell your name for the courts.
Skylar Weirs.
WEIRS.
How old are you?
I am 20 years old.
What is your occupation?
I'm an investigative journalist.
Do you have a sibling named Dakota Weirs?
Yes.
Are you twins with Dakota Weirs?
Yes, ma'am.
How would you characterize your relationship with your twin?
Me and Dakota are on mostly good terms, and I truly wish her the best in this lawsuit.
Do you oppose this lawsuit?
Yes.
Why do you oppose the lawsuit between your twin, Miss Dakota Weirs, and Lush Fertilizer?
I believe that there is no chemical in Drufo that causes cancer in humans.
What agri-tech companies state that the chemical Drufo... My apologies, let me restate the question. What agri-tech companies have found studies linking the chemical that have not found any link between the chemical Drufo and causing cancer in humans?
USDA and the NASDA.
How did you come to this conclusion?
I have authored an article in Rationalist magazine questioning if Drufo really causes cancer. I found my result after doing a year of research. I reviewed many articles published by architect companies like the USDA and the NASDA, and they all say that the chemical in Drufo is safer.
Your Honor, according to Rule 702, I suggest Skylar Weirs as an expert in modern agri-tech.
All right. For buffalo grass, any objection?
No, Your Honor.
All right, no objection. So we'll find then that Skylar Weir's expert then in the agri-tech. You may continue.
Ms. Weirs, why do you think people are blaming Drufo and furthermore Lush Fertilizer as carcinogenic?
This is because Lush's patent breakthrough threatens the other fertilizer businesses. Therefore, people are trying to ruin Lush's reputation.
Do you have an opinion on Lush's corporate ethics?
Yes, Lush Fertilizer development of Drufo, in fact, protected its customers by eliminating its exposure to recognized carcinogens like nitrates, glyphosate, and arsenic.
Do you believe that Lush Fertilizer's product caused your twins non-Hodgkin lymphoma?
No, I do not.
Do you believe that another source or sources may have caused your twins non-Hodgkin lymphoma?
Yes, Dakota has had many past exposures with different fertilizers with known carcinogens.
Why do you believe that another source may have caused the non-Hodgkin lymphoma?
I think it is due to the poor training that my twin Dakota Weirs received at her previous job at Haven Landscaping. A company should not let any one of its patented chemicals be used without proper coverage, like a mask, respirator, or goggles.
Thank you, Ms. Weirs. No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Samaceros, this is your witness.
All right, so Ms. Weirs, you were confident enough in your research that you testified for Lush Fertilizer instead of your sister Dakota, correct?
Correct.
You have spent about a year researching agri-tech.
Yes, sir.
You concluded that there are environmental benefits to these products.
Yes,
However, these products are inherently poison.
that is correct, sir.
Pesticides and herbicides are used as a synthetic nitrogen, correct?
Correct.
Do these synthetic nitrogen cause baby blue syndrome, cancers, and other conditions?
Can you repeat that, please?
Does synthetic nitrogen cause baby blue syndrome, cancers, and other medical conditions?
Yes, they can cause those medical conditions.
Please turn to exhibit number 2. Could you read the ingredient list?
Yes. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, iron.
So on the Lush ingredient list, it clearly says that nitrogen is an active ingredient.
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to enter exhibit number 7 as evidence.
So was that exhibit 7?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I thought we were looking at 2. Let me look at exhibit 7.
Oh, sorry, I'm mistaken. I think I meant exhibit 2, sorry.
No, that's fine. That's what we're talking about. Any objection to exhibit number 2?
No, Your Honor.
Number 2 is accepted. Thank you, Mr. Cisneros.
Okay. So despite this, you do not believe that Lush Fertilizer is responsible for Dakota's condition, correct?
Correct.
Mrs. Weirs, you don't have a close relationship with your sister, right?
Right. You're not close.
When you chose to forego college to pursue your writing career, your father financially cut you off.
He did, in fact, cut me off.
Yes or no, please.
Yes.
Your father also chose to pay for all of Dakota's medical treatments.
Objection, relevance.
All right, there's an objection to relevance. Mr. Sanaceros?
It goes in motive.
All right. I think questions relating to bias are always going to be appropriate questions. So I'm going to overrule the objection. I'll allow you to continue.
So you're working at Applebee's now to make ends meet, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, and your writing career has lost you tons of job opportunities, correct?
Could you repeat that, please?
Your writing career also led to you losing many job opportunities, correct?
Yes, I would say so.
Okay. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
All right. Do we have any other questions then for this witness?
One moment, Your Honor.
Okay.
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Then we are done with Ms. Schuyler. Thank you. Next witness then. All right, so this is Blake Downcourt.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, already sworn in as a witness then. This is your witness, Ms. Keel.
Good evening, Ms. Doncourt. Please state your name, spelling the last for the record.
Blake Doncourt, Doncourtt.
Ms. Doncourt, what do you do for work?
I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Lush Fertilizer.
What is Lush Fertilizer?
Lush Fertilizer is one of the world's largest suppliers of yard and commercial fertilizers. We have been instrumental in creating state and nation legislation seeking to educate on environmental issues worldwide.
How long have you been the Chief Executive Officer of Lush Fertilizer?
Since 2000, so about 21 years.
And why are you here today?
We are all here because of Miss Dakota Weir's preposterous accusations about Lush causing their non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
You said Lush. What is Lush?
Lush is our flagship product that is used by businesses, governments, and individuals to produce vibrant, lush green grass.
Why is Lush being blamed for causing non-Hodgkin lymphoma?
We are being falsely accused of knowing our fertilizer had a carcinogen and ignoring it.
Is there a specific ingredient in your fertilizer that is alleged to be carcinogenic?
Yes, Drufo, it's a bonding agent in our fertilizer.
Is Lush fertilizer carcinogenic?
No.
How certain are you that it is not carcinogenic?
There is no valid evidence that directly links the use of Lush fertilizer to cancer.
Let's talk about how you know that. Ms. Doncourt, did Lush Fertilizer research and test Lush before it was put on the market?
Of course we did. We did extensive research and testing before putting all of our products on the market.
And what were the findings?
Our extensive research and testing did not identify this as a specific risk to persons coming in contact with our fertilizer. Our toxology research and development teams found nothing in the product to require a warning with the insignificant levels of toxicity in our fertilizer. Neither did the EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency.
Ms. Doncourt, would you consider your company to be environmentally sustainable?
Yes, 10% of Lush's annual profits are donated to charities that help reduce the global footprint. We have also started our own charities, which are focused on cleaning up the polluted areas of our ocean. I won the SEAL Sustainability Award in 2019 and was nominated for the Champions of the Earth Award in 2020.
I want to talk to you about your research and development team's findings. Are you aware of any other scientific studies that prove Drufo is carcinogenic?
I am aware that there has been one that has been shown in this legislation. However, I do not believe it followed proper, reliable protocol.
Are you aware of the study completed by Dr. Casey Rogers?
Yes.
While Carson Durst was working for you, did she personally tell you that she was concerned about that Drufo was dangerous?
No.
What did the reports that were sent to you by Carson Durst say?
That there was no significant danger.
When did Carson Durst's claim about the danger of Drufo first come up?
After they had already started working at Terrace Greenery.
Why do you think they came up at that time?
Terrace Greenery is one of our largest competitors, and they are about to release a product that is similar to ours, but they claim is carcinogenic free. She's a profiteer using training and experience gained when my company decided to take the risk and hire her.
Do you have a non-disclosure agreement with Ms. Durst?
Yes.
Ms. Doncourt, please turn your attention to Defense Exhibit 5. Your Honor, let the record reflect that opposing counsel has been provided with a copy, and Your Honor, do you have a copy? Do you recognize this document, Ms. Doncourt?
Yes, this is the non-disclosure agreement I have between myself and Carson Durst. It's one I have with many of my employees.
Is your signature on this document?
Yes.
Ms. Doncourt, please read paragraph 1 and 2 of Exhibit 5.
Non-convenient. During employment and for a period of 2 years after the separation of employment for any reason, the employee will not directly or indirectly engage in any competitive businesses and shall not become directly or indirectly engaged in any business that would benefit from disclosure of Lush's trade secrets. Directly or indirectly engaging in a business includes, but is not limited to, 1, engaging in a business as owner, partner, or agent; 2, becoming an employee of any third party that is engaged in such businesses; or 3, becoming interested directly or indirectly in any such business; or 5, providing services as an independent contractor to such businesses.
Has Ms. Durst violated this non-disclosure agreement?
Yes. Yes, she did.
I want to talk to you about financial motives. Ms. Weirs and her team are alleging that you put profits over safety. Is this true?
No, not at all. The truth is that had there been any significant verifiable risk that Drufo could be carcinogenic, I would never have allowed it to be placed on the market. I am an avowed environmentalist. It is an absurd allegation that I would intentionally or even negligently cause harm to my fellow human beings.
You just described that there's no significant verifiable risk that Drufo could be carcinogenic. I want to talk to you about the warning labels on your products. Why was there no need to put a warning label on? Why was there no need to put a warning label?
There was no need to put a warning label because there was no risk to persons coming in contact with our fertilizer.
Was there any federal or state laws that required you to put a warning label on the product?
No, there was no federal or state laws.
If there had been any valid data identifying the risk of the fertilizer being carcinogenic in humans, would Lush have acted?
Of course, the safety of my customers is my #1 priority, and there would have been labels applied immediately if one of our products once proved to be a risk to humans.
Does your product have any recommendations as to its use?
Yes, to utilize protective clothing that covers skin, to the use of a respirator and N95, and to wash hands before and after use.
Why does your product have this warning?
This is with any spray fertilizer. Again, neither Lush nor I would ever do anything to cause an environmental or health harm. We consider ourselves stewards of good environmental and safety practices.
To end, do you believe any Lush product contributed to Miss Weir's condition?
No, while I hope Miss Weirs recovers soon, and again, I'm very sympathetic to what she is going through, I sleep fine at night, knowing that no Lush product contributed to Miss Weir's condition.
Thank you, Ms. Doncourt. No further questions.
All right, thank you very much. Buffalo grass. All right, Ms. Gordon, your witness.
Yep. So you are the CEO of Lush Fertilizers, right?
Yes.
And you've been on this company since 2000?
Yes, I created the company.
So it went from an unknown fertilizer company to an international competitor.
Yes, through lots of hard work.
You have poured your soul into this company?
Yes.
And you're hoping to repeat your success in 2021, but I imagine that this case has derailed that. Yes?
Repeat my success in what?
Repeat being a massive competitor.
Yes.
Do you know of Carson Durst?
Yes.
Is he an employee?
He was an employee and also my son's friend.
Do you know which team he was on?
Team of what?
When he worked at your company?
He was in the research team.
When he was first hired, he just worked as an intern, right?
Yes, as with all employees.
And he learned the trade through your company
Yes, we taught him.
and gained experience.
Yes.
And he developed his technical research skills.
Yes, our company was very important to his development of skills.
And he even became an all-time employee and not just an intern, yes?
Yes.
But despite his accomplishments, Carson was fired.
Yes, after some time, Carson was fired.
As an employee, he was probably earned a regular employee rate.
Yes.
After he was fired, he began to work at Tara's Greenery, correct?
Yes, after he left, he began to work at Terrace Green.
Yes, would suffice. And you claim he earns more money than any researcher should earn now.
Yes.
A wage that Lush couldn't afford?
Lush could not afford to pay our customers that, or our employees that amount. No.
Yes, could suffice. I hear you don't bake any of your products at Lush, is that correct?
Yes.
It's costly?
Yes.
In fact, do you think it's too expensive for the little risk that it elevated?
Yes, it alleviated too little risk.
Do you say it's a little overkill?
Yes, it is completely overkill.
I believe you have Exhibit 8 in front of you.
I do.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that I am showing the witness a copy of Exhibit 8. Do you have a copy? Okay. So do you recognize this document?
Yes.
So can you remind me of what we're looking at right now?
This is an amortization table that I created.
So you've seen an increase in profits each year.
We were able to increase our profits each year, yes.
An estimated 6% profit in 2005?
Yes, for the first year and an additional 2% every year thereafter.
In dollar amounts, Lush Fertilizers is roughly making 1.8 million bucks.
Yes.
And you need to show a profit because you have to pay back the vulture capitalist, which provide you with a loan to start your company.
Yes, I had to pay back the venture capitalist.
I heard you got recently divorced.
Not recently, it was in 2004.
Objection, relevance.
All right, I guess it's contemporaneous enough. Ms. Gordon, the divorce question, why is that relevant?
Building motive.
Motive for,
For a money issue in the company.
fair enough. I'll find it relevant. I'll overrule the objection. You may continue.
And now you must pay an alimony to your ex-partner, this gold digger you called her?
Yes.
One last question, Mr. Donkert, Mrs. How much would it cost for you to put a warning label on your fertilizer?
There is already a warning label on my fertilizer.
There's a recommended label.
And a warning.
No more further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon. All right, Ms. Keel.
Yes, just a few questions for Ms. Doncourt. Ms. Doncourt, are there any verifiable risks of cancer in your product, Lush Fertilizer?
There are no verifiable risks of cancer.
Would you ever put the safety over your consumers over the profits of your company?
No, the safety of my customers is my number one concern.
And did your divorce pose even the smallest of threats to the financial standing of your company?
No, my personal life is completely separate from my company.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you very much. Any follow-up with that then, Ms. Gordon?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. We are at closing arguments then. Closing arguments for Buffalo. Thank you, Ms. Gordon.
Of the jury, Your Honor, and opposing counsel for your time. We had the burden of proof and we explained how Durfo was the cause of the platinous health in decrease. As we can see, Dakota Weir's life has been hindered and shortened by Lush Fertilizer's poor foresight. Carson Durst has a promising future in fertilizer industry, but Lush just didn't see their potential. Casey Rogers is a brilliant researcher who took the time to look at the impacts on the human body it had. And of course, we know Dakota Weirs and her unfortunate illness at only age 20 years old. The defendant's side has brought Blake Donkert, who is only concerned about their awards and profits. Skylar, a researcher who couldn't get money from her father. And lastly, Dr. Devlin Williams based all their work on statistics and not tests. We are confident that we made our case clear and that Dakota deserves justice from the despicable company called Lush Fertilizers.
All right, thank you, Ms. Gordon. Ms. Miller-Vivian.
No knowledge, no duty. In opening statements, my co-counsel stood before you and said that the key elements of this case will be missing. The key elements was Ms. Weir's proof of Lush's knowledge and Lush's duty to act. At the end of evidence today, the key element remains missing and was not proven. Today, the evidence was clear that Lush was not aware of an unreasonable risk of harm to its users of the product. No knowledge, no duty, therefore no liability. Before we begin discussing what you've heard here today, we are all saddened by Miss Weir's illness. Truly, it shouldn't befall anyone, let alone a young student with such a bright and promising future. However, we're here in the courtroom where rules of law determine an outcome, not our sympathy. Jury instruction number 13 instructs you must not be influenced by sympathy, bias, or prejudice for or against any party in this case. And this even includes Miss Weir's. Sympathy has no place in your decision here today. So we turn to decisions that need to be made. The first decision is that has Miss Weir's proven that Lush was negligent by preponderance of evidence? This is her burden to prove. Miss Weirs must prove that Lush was negligent by failing to exercise reasonable care to prevent the product from creating an unreasonable risk of harm to persons who might reasonably be expected to use the product in the manner that the defendant might have reasonably expected. Miss Weirs did not prove this element of negligence by preponderance of evidence. What you heard here today was Lush had a research and development team led by Karsten Durst, specifically tasked to research the safety of Drufo. They did not find any studies which explored whether the chemical compound had any adverse effects in humans Lush's own extensive research and testing did not identify the risk of cancer as a specific risk to persons using the fertilizer. Ms. Duncourt, the CEO of Lush, testified that she was certainly never aware of a substance in concern given any reason to be concerned that the use of Drufo is dangerous. She said that had there been any valid evidence the Drufo could cause cancer, she would have never allowed Lush to be put on the market. And to address this one study allegedly found by Karsten Durst of cancers in rats, a study about rats is not a study about humans. Cancer risks in laboratory animals does not prove an unreasonable risk in cancer in humans. Ms. Durst can only speculate that this study even made it up the flagpole to the top of Lush. So there's no evidence that Blank Thorncourt was even aware of this study. Keep in mind, Ms. Durst is someone who admitted here today that she was betrayed by Ms. Duncourt. So betrayed that she went to work for a competitor and went back on her word, violating a legal agreement, a promise to non-compete with Lush. None of Ms. Weir's witnesses today established that Lush had their product created a risk to humans. Lush exercised reasonable care in conducting its studies and concluding there was no unreasonable risk of harm to persons using their product. Ms. Weirs must also prove that her illness was caused by Lush's negligence. Ms. Weirs did not prove this element of negligence by preponderance of evidence. As my co-counsel told you in their opening statements, not one witness here today testified with authority that Lush's product was the cause or even a cause of Ms. Weir's illness. Ms. Weirs is simply guessing that the fertilizer is the cause of her illness, even though that she testified that she'd been in the landscaping business for several years and worked with several other lawn fertilizers and chemicals. There's no testimony today about how Ms. Weirs or her expert determined that the other chemicals she worked with were not the cause of her cancer. Ms. Weir's proposed expert, Dr. Casey Rogers, testified about a possible statistical correlation between the uses of Lush's product and an increased incidence in cancer. There's multiple problems with her study. Dr. Casey Rogers did not explain whether the farm workers or gardeners who were exposed to Drufo were also exposed to other chemicals, much like Ms. Weir's was. You're required to find a fact based on probability, not possibilities. You should not have to guess or speculate about this in order to get to the conclusion that the plaintiff wants you to get to, that Drufo was the cause of Ms. Weir's illness. Plaintiff is asking you to guess and speculate. On the other hand, Ms. Weir's was not careful when she used several lawn fertilizers and chemicals over the years of landscaping. We don't have to guess or speculate about this. She told us herself. Despite the user safety precautions on Lush product and her boss's own instructions to wear gloves, long pants, long shirt, and a face covering when spreading the fertilizer, you must consider Ms. Weir's actions in your decision here today. This behavior, this purposeful carelessness, when she knew better, is Ms. Weir's own negligence.
All right, was that time? Stop. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. All right, thank you. So there was no request to reserve any time by Ms. Gordon, so I'm going to consider the trial to be completed. Good job, everyone. It's a tough act, especially doing the second act. You've already gotten all your nervous energy out. Now it's just kind of like wanting to get it over with. It's a tough time to come back in right after the other one, starting super late, and I'm sure everyone's hungry as well. I'm going to let Mr. Stein, Mr. Vildegard, and then Ms. Morris start getting all of their calculations together. They're going to do calculations. They'll get that sent in. They'll send the postings out as soon as possible for everyone, so you can go in and review that as soon as we get everybody in, everything calculated. Is there anything we need to do, anything else other than I'm going to do my closing, or do you want us to skip all of that?
No, you can go ahead and go through that. I think they would all appreciate that. Just to let everybody know or remind them that the next round tomorrow morning will start at 10 a.m. Obviously, please be trying to get into the courtroom prior to that, so we're ready to go at 10. Once we receive all the ballots from the different courtrooms, we'll calculate everything out and post the pairings. We'll send the pairings into the technical team tonight. Whether or not they're around to post them or they'll do it first thing in the morning, but it'll be plenty of time for everybody to know ahead of time of where they need to be.
All right, thank you very much. So as we go through these types of cases, always tough. It's you always have to remember who's being sued and who's doing the suing. And we've got a cancer patient here, and that's always kind of a tough person to cross-examine, a tough person to get questions out, but not seem like you're beating that person up too much. I thought that there was a lot of good control on the yes or no questions and the cross-examination, making it very narrow. I thought both teams did a good job. In my courtroom, if someone's not answering the question yes or no, and it's actually a yes or no question, after trying to direct them, you can certainly ask the court to do that for you. Ask the court, find an objection non-responsive. They're not answering yes or no, Your Honor. And then I would direct that person. They're asking you a yes or no question. If they're asking you a yes or no question, you're gonna have to answer in that form. The other thing is, though, you have to make sure that it's actually a yes or no question. And there's plenty of times when people will direct their witnesses to say yes or no, and the question really isn't yes or no. But that makes it a little difficult, but you guys did a fantastic job of keeping that together. I like the opening statements. I like the closing arguments as well. I don't want to stay on too long because we are well beyond time. Mr. Stein, have you got your scores together?
Yep, everything's all good and submitted.
Great. How about for you, Mr. Vidigar? Have you got yours together?
I have not submitted it, Your Honor, but I'm just checking my numbers now.
That's fine. I'll let you go last. Ms. Morris, have you got yours together?
I have, Your Honor, and I have submitted those.
Perfect. I'll let you go ahead and go since you're already on video. Any comments you'd like to make to the teams?
I would just like to commend everybody's perseverance with technology. I can say, as someone who practices and does court all the time on the virtual platforms, that they can create a lot of problems and technical difficulties that you kind of have to shoot when you've got your tensions and stresses already running high. And so it makes what can feel like an artificial process even more artificial sometimes. So I just applaud you all for sticking with it. So good job.
Those are great points. Thank you, Ms. Morris. Mr. Stein, I'll let you go next.
Thank you, Your Honor. So first thing, I practice criminal defense, and we don't do trials on WebEx or on Zoom. And there's a good reason for it. It is very difficult. So I commend all of you for being able to do that. And you all did it very well. It's definitely not easy. I remember being in your shoes. Luckily, I got to go in person when I was doing it, and it definitely helped. And then one thing that I did want to mention just in general is when you're doing your openings, try and think of it as a story. Give the jury a story as to what happened. So in the case of the plaintiff, you can say, you can start it as, I can't remember the name right now, Dakota Wares. So Dakota wakes up in the morning, laying in bed, just staring at the ceiling, and he can't get up. He's just in so much pain. Something like that to give the vivid imagery in someone's head. And then on the other side, for you're defending a corporation. That's always the harder part, is humanizing the corporation. So trying to find a way, which I can't think of off the top of my head to do that, but trying to find a way to humanize the corporation as well, so that the jury can be like, oh, they're not just some big corporation that cares about it or that doesn't care about it. And then another thing is just theme. A theme and a theory is very important in your opening statements, and just to make sure that that is in both the opening and then carry it throughout the case, because it's also something, the primacy and recency of the jurors just listening to what they hear first and what they hear last. It's very helpful. But overall, I think you all did a very good job, and I wish you all the luck going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Stein. Mr. Vidigar.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to echo Ashley's appreciation for the efforts of all the students. This is definitely a technical case problem. There's a lot of scientific language, a lot of experts talking about minutia in terms of the division between whether something creates a risk or not. As a result, I think there's the only thing I really want to suggest to all of you is to remember that the witnesses are really the vehicle through which the story comes out. And for the attorneys on direct, remember the rapport that you need to have with your witness, so that the jury and the court find
Thank you so much. I agree. I was going to talk about for the witnesses. We had really strong witnesses this time. I really enjoyed the quick recall. There really was not a lot of scrambling trying to remember the facts for you and the characters that you played. And I thought all of you did a very strong job with that. I think picking out the strongest witness is going to be a difficult position for the scores to do that, as well as the best attorneys as well. Lastly, then, I just want to make sure there's not any inside the bar disputes. So for Buffalo Grass, are there any inside bar disputes that we need to resolve before we sign off?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you so much. Then for Switchgrass, are there any inside the bar disputes that we need to resolve?
No, Your Honor.
All right, so we don't have, well, we do. There we go. So we're going to be signing off here. I think we're all done. Anything else that you need us to complete before we sign off?
No, I appreciate everyone's participation and all the scores, and Your Honor, your participation, and we will see everyone tomorrow morning.
It's good to see your faces, guys. You